Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webinar from Zero Bounce. The theme of today is Automate Your Email Income. I'm Paul Leslie, content creator and writer here at Zero Bounce, and the key word today is automate. When you automate, it makes everything easier. You can reach people and convert. Just to let everybody know, this webinar is being recorded, so you're going to get a full recording. And we will have time for question and answer. Please feel free to use that chat. Also, let us know where you're joining us from. I see Carrie joining us from Australia. We've got Ontario, Canada. Derek, thank you for joining us from Wisconsin. Washington, D.C., hello from Greece. Always blows my mind. Salzburg, Austria, Germany, covering all the time zones here. Scottsdale, Arizona. To tell you a little bit about Zero Bounce, Zero Bounce is the #1 email verifier for more than 400,000 clients. I know many of you all are clients of Zero Bounce. We thank you for that. But we're always proud to announce many of the big companies that use this product, everyone from Netflix, Disney, Amazon, Sephora, Vistaprint, and so many others. Zero Bounce is more than an email verifier. It's an email finder. There's many, many tools that all help you reach the inbox. It's my pleasure to introduce one of our two speakers today, Brian Minnick, who is a veteran speaker. He speaks about everything related to getting your emails seen. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Zero Bounce. He's also a very accessible guy. You're going to see that you can connect with him on LinkedIn. I highly recommend that you do. And it's my pleasure to introduce Carlos Gil, brand evangelist for GetResponse. He's also the author of The End of Marketing, Humanizing Your Brand in the Age of Social Media and AI. You're going to want to pick up a copy. It is a bestseller. So I will bring in our speakers, Brian and Carlos. Folks, you are in very good hands.
What's going on, everyone? Brian, it's always a pleasure to collaborate with you in Zero Bounce.
Same. Good to have you.
I appreciate that. So look, we're going to jump right into it. And I want to, first of all, start off by saying that automation is a process, right? And automation to me means having systems in place. And we're going to get throughout this presentation, talk about how you can automate different processes as it pertains to email. But I want to kind of start by addressing how you get through this process. And social media is a big part of it, right? So I have spent the majority of my career prior to joining the GetResponse team leading social media within the inside of various brands. Used to run social media at LinkedIn and BMC Software. And I've worked with a whole slew of Fortune 500 companies throughout my career. But on the flip side, I've also worked as a creator. I've worked with notable brands as a content creator. I have a personal brand. And one of the reasons why in my role as brand evangelist for GetResponse, one of the reasons why I enjoy partnering with Zero Bounce is because Zero Bounce offers a technology that's absolutely needed for every creator, every marketer, every brand that is using GetResponse or an ESP. And I don't want to steal Brian's thunder. So I'm going to first walk you through where we're at today as marketers, where you need to be thinking from a just pure marketing standpoint to evolve your brand. And email is a big component of that. And as Brian and I kind of take you through over the next 45 or 60 minutes, this presentation, you're going to learn about strategies that's going to help you really future-proof your brand if you're relying on social media and how to implement those systems in place. So first of all, I'm curious to know, those of you that are watching, are you currently using social media in your business? Just a very kind of simple yes or no. And I start from this angle because a lot of businesses today are relying almost exclusively on social media as really being the primary driver of how they create noise for their business or how they drive brand awareness. Email oftentimes becomes secondary unless email is a core function of your day-to-day job. Email, from my standpoint, by marketers is viewed as like a secondary function because let's face it, social media, it's easy. It's sexy. You've got instant gratification with, likes and follows and engagement, whereas email actually takes work. I will say this, like as someone that spent the last year working for an ESP and Get Response, email does take work. But what you're going to hear me say, you're going to hear Brian say this, is email is a highly effective marketing channel, which is why if you're not taking email serious, you absolutely need to start paying attention because what social media is rented land. And you look at the stats here on the screen, you look at Facebook, average reach is 2.6% on Facebook. And we've started to see in recent times, even these numbers start to dwindle. You have these social networks that have become extremely noisy, overly saturated. You have low engagement, and it's all because of consumers' inability to keep up with all that noise. If we transition to the next slide, what you're going to see here is we live in a state right now where we are all highly susceptible if we're relying on these social networks. And I see a lot of yeses here in the chat. If we're relying on these social networks to be the lifeline for how we reach our customers and we're not incorporating email, you're really putting all of the control in the social network's hands. And I'll share with you a horror story that's like very near and dear to myself. A couple of years ago, my brother-in-law and I, we started up a sneaker resale store here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I live. And our primary means of communication to grow that business was Instagram. It was social media. It was all this organic content strategy where people come into our store, we take photos of them, we tag them on Instagram. And that was the way that we were, through word of mouth, able to grow our business. Well, what happened was one day I wake up and I see that our Instagram account was taken down. And the reason why it was taken down is because our Facebook ads manager got hacked. By our Facebook ads manager getting hacked, we lost our Facebook page, we lost our Instagram account, and we really lost our ability to communicate with our customer base. At that point, we weren't doing really any email. We were collecting emails at the point of sale through Shopify, but we weren't doing any formal email marketing. We were relying on just social. Well, our Instagram account was down for about 3 weeks. We had no one to contact at Facebook, and we were losing business because now our primary marketing channel went away. So I share this with you as like a very real story because this is happening every single day to businesses all around the world. They get hacked, they lose a password, an employee goes rogue, you violate a terms of service, and you just don't know what you did, but you can't get your account back. And this is again where email today, its own land. If we go to the next slide, email is own land. You're not as dependent on, the ESP going down as you are a social network banning you. So I just want to say this, and I don't want to spend too much more time talking about this, but I want you to think about this. If your social networks went away tomorrow, do you have a backup plan? Meaning, do you have emails in place? Are you collecting emails today? Are you finding ways to convert your social media followers into email subscribers? And if you answered no, meaning you're not using social to convert those followers into email, you're not backing yourself up, you don't have a scalable email newsletter, you are really putting too much control and you're leaving yourself open to risk. Next slide, please. Now, I want to say this, since joining Get Response a year ago as their brand evangelist, I have now spent a lot of time going to various conferences, whether they're creator conferences, small business expo style conferences. I just came from a social media conference, and any sort of industry conference that's not specifically email related, I continuously see that email is being overlooked. And that's a problem that needs to stop, right? Email is the most effective marketing channel. You own your data. You give zero control to the algorithms. You can go direct to consumer. So I'm curious to know out there, for those of you that are watching, like, who has a kick-ass, rockstar, scalable email newsletter campaign? Like, who's doing email really, really well in your business? I'd love for you to drop the name of your business here in the chat, because after this, I want to go back. I want to start following you. I want to pay close attention because I'm always looking for really good examples. We go to the next slide, please. You see here the breakdown, right, of what email compared to social can do for you. So first of all, I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I'm saying here. Social media is still relevant for your business. You should be using it. But you have to understand something. Social media is a great tool for discovery, meaning you post content, you have a limited number of people that are able to see what it is that you do. You have a small community that's engaged. Those people, great. Those should be your loyal brand ambassadors that you continue to cultivate and find more of them. But the reality is that more than likely you're reaching a very, very small percentage of those social media followers. And social media should not be a business model for you. It should really just be a tool of how you promote and grow your business. Email, on the other hand, gives you direct access. So I asked this question recently at this social media conference I was at. Would you rather have 10,000 social media followers, or would you rather have 1,000 email subscribers? And no surprise whatsoever, every single person said, I'd rather have 1,000 email subscribers. And the reason for that is because with 1,000 email subscribers, you can go much deeper with the relationship, meaning you can segment your audiences out. You can set up automation workflows. You know exactly who's opening, who's clicking. You have much more control with email than you do with social media. And once again, there's no algorithm that you're competing against with email versus if you post on Instagram and you have, let's say, 10,000 followers, but only 1% of those followers ever see your content. That's a very small number by comparison of the email open rates and ratios. Which, speaking of, you see the next point there, email has an average open rate of 32.55% across all industries. This is not pie in the sky data. Every single year, GetResponse does its annual benchmark report. Last year in the United States alone, over 1 billion emails were sent using GetResponse. And the average open rate of those emails in the US was a little over 32%. Now, if I had to go ahead and ask any one of you what your conversion rate is or open rate is on social media, I guarantee you no one here watching this has anywhere near 30%, right? Open rate whatsoever. Whereas email, because of the reasons why I stated, it's direct to consumer, there's no algorithms, you're always going to have a much higher open rate than if you are relying on social, which is why, once again, marketers who build their audiences are able to really monetize on their terms. And what I mean by owning your audience is using these channels to promote, to market, to drive brand awareness, but have the systems in place to capture their data. I'm going to give you some tips here on how you can do just that. And then on the back end, use automation tools through GetResponse to ensure that you're constantly staying always on and in front of this audience. We can go to the next slide, please. So with that, Brian, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, let's do it. So it's such a, Carlos, just kind of totally going off script here because it's way better that way. I always love that way. But
I agree.
Something that's really interesting that just kind of, as you're talking about, I think it's generally speaking always and I think even internally we have this kind of concept, but we're breaking out of it. And I see it a lot in businesses where it's always one directional. People see social to the business, social to the newsletter, social to the store. But it's both ways is also how I see it. There's, you can upload the lookalike audiences. You can put these people in LinkedIn. You can drive additional traffic. So I think just one thing like people should be aware of is it's bi-directional, right? And it's important to know that social can help you grow your email list, and your email list can help you grow your social. And so, don't lose track of those two. But man, I mean, all this stuff with TikTok, like, and that's a huge kind of creator and content area and a huge driver of business, especially consumer business. That was scary for a lot of people. I knew people personally heavily affected. Carlos, you were probably heavily affected in this or potentially
100%.
Yeah. And what was, I mean, it was crazy. You started to see people that would never show their face on their content. That was their whole brand was not showing their face. And they're like, well, here I am, show their face. And kind of everyone was saying goodbye. It was just a very interesting time. And quite honestly, I don't see this, especially with what's going on right now, I don't see this getting potentially even any better. So, be aware, guys. Social is not, definitive. It is not forever. Look at MySpace. I mean, sorry, I'm dating myself. The Gray's doing it for me already. But we are not in a time of 20 years ago. The only thing that's still working from 20 years ago is websites and email. I really think that. I don't know what else is working. Storefronts, I'm arguing, is not even working anymore. I know people shutting those down and just going to online only. So, just keep that stuff in mind. And sorry, I'll get back here kind of on track. But
one thing
I do think that's important. Yeah.
One thing I just want to interject real quickly, right? Because there's people tuning in this and they're like, I thought this was like an email marketing webinar, which it is. But it's really important to state that the majority of us as business operators, marketers, wherever you kind of sit in the hierarchy of your organization, right? How you reach your customers is not, you don't operate in a silo anymore, right? So like social has become a critical component to how businesses market. I personally and professionally, Brian, have been talking about this narrative of owning versus renting your land for the better part of 10 years. 10 years ago, I went to go work at LinkedIn as their head of social for one of their business units. And I realized working for a social network that these social networks at the end of the day are advertising platforms. They're glorified advertising platforms disguised as social networks, right? So they're in the business of reselling data. They're in the business of selling digital ad space. And as time has evolved, and I have evolved as a speaker and thought leader in this whole digital marketing space, I have felt it's almost like my duty to tell as many people as possible, like, you need to focus on owning your data, whether it's an email address or a phone number or both, right? Like, you need to own it. Now, before I turn it back over to you, where I love what Zero Bounce does is there's also like rules of engagement, rules to play the game when it comes to email marketing. Like, I have no shame in saying this because I've worked in digital marketing since '08, and I've been on the side of as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, business owner. These ESPs, they will ban you very quickly if you are not ensuring that you're emailing people that have opted in and you have clean email lists, right? And I've even seen this in recent times working with different creators that I brought into our ecosystem, right? I don't know how they acquire their lists. I have to assume that they have all the, opt-ins and double opt-ins, everything in place, but I just don't know. So our relationship started from a place of me valuing what you offer, because as I'm telling more creators, like, you got to get on Get Response, you need to be using email, and they're bringing lists over before they use Get Response, I want to ensure that they are actually using Zero Bounce to clean their lists up.
Yeah, it's so important. And the data decay, which is, here on this slide, we ran a huge data decay. We do it every year. We started it, I think, 3 years ago, maybe 4. And every year our team goes through and we kind of analyze the data that's coming through at the highest levels, by the way. What's the decay? What's the typos? How are all this stuff? How do we catch it? And it's just really interesting. A lot of the data that we get, we see a ton of volume. So you can see kind of there at the bottom, 28% of lists that we're seeing are decaying every year. That's nuts, by the way. And so that's going to be a little bit higher of a number on the B2B side. So if you're a B2B mailer, that number is going to go up. I mean, look what's going on right now. Economy is another kind of big topic. There's layoffs happening. There's growth happening too, by the way. So for everything that goes down, things go up in other areas. And so we're seeing a lot of people actually ramping up hiring, as well as also moving people around. So the B2B email lists, those ones are decaying quite a bit. We validated over 10 billion emails in the last year. All right. That's a lot of email addresses. And so we're seeing everything from all over, and that's all over the world, by the way. So email is email. That's also another beautiful thing where, social has its own challenges of now language, speech, all these different type of things, closed captioning, however you guys do it. I'm the furthest thing from a social media person, but I do know there's a lot of challenges with that, whereas email is email and email addresses are email addresses. They deliver all over the world. And the concepts are, where are you getting these leads from? So if you're getting them from the intake forms, from your website, if you're getting them, collecting them on social, I just want to know, we have firsthand experience collecting leads, especially on social or website, whatever it might be, that are all over the place, by the way. They're getting hit from bots. They're getting hit from, there's good data in there, but there's also bad data. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff. And kind of what Carlos was saying is the making sure that those are deliverable email addresses and verifying them before you kind of move them into your workflows, super important. I would call it critical. It has to be done, because that will cause a chain of reaction that continues to follow you and then long-term haunts you, because now you don't even know where they are or where they came from or how did you get it and what do I do with it? And so making sure it's kind of clean in the first place. There's a reason there's a doormat in front of every door, right? It's to clean your feet before you walk through. It's the same concept. You should be cleaning any of the data coming through the door before they get into your whole kind of house and safe space. So it's critical on the sign up forms. This is something that we're paying more and more attention to. We're seeing more and more of this kind of happening. By sign up forms, this is any intake form. This is any place where you collect that field that says, give me your email address. The amount of typos that are happening still in 2025 is insane. It's getting worse, and it's getting worse for multiple reasons. Number one, people have tons of email addresses. So it used to be, I have one email for personal, one for business, that's it. No, the average person now we're seeing is north of 6 email addresses. They have multiples. They have personal email addresses. One's for the garbage that they don't really necessarily check all the time. But what's happening is things get confused. People are fat fingering on their phone on mobile. We caught 10 million typos in forms. That's insanity. That's a typo. Those can be, and there's a chain reaction with that as well. So maybe they're expecting your newsletter. Maybe you sent Carlos your way. He signed up for your newsletter and typoed it. And now he's saying, these guys don't even have a newsletter. This is a joke. He's judging you because he made a mistake. And nobody thinks they've ever typoed their name wrong, by the way. Ask anybody. No chance I typoed it wrong. So it's a reflection of you. You should catch that stuff. And on top of it, you're missing all the ROI and the value of that person throughout the whole workflow. So catching typos on sign-up forms, incredibly powerful. Making sure that you're getting rid of any of these fake data points, these bots that are hitting your forms. I can tell you firsthand, every business I've ever been a part of, including the ones that I've also started on my own. At one point, I wake up one day and I'm like, oh my God, this is gold. What just happened? And 10,000 email addresses get submitted to your form. And you're thinking you're on top of the world. You maybe start to take a look at them and you're like, oh, I don't know about that. These don't look great. And so now, how do you know what's good? How do you know what's bad? How do you know brian@gmail.com is not a good one when there's a lot of other email addresses sitting in there that are? You have to be able to identify those things. There's lots of bad data that's happening out there. And this disposable domains, this is another topic that many people are not even aware of. They're burner emails. That's exactly what they are. If you're not familiar with that, I love the Inspector Gadget. I miss that guy. It's been quite a few years, but I always loved that concept of that message that blew up when he threw it in the trash can, and he always somehow blew himself up. But, in a sense of these email addresses are out there. There's thousands of websites, by the way. They are popping up every single day. They get a ton of traffic, and people can get an email address on demand that can send and receive mail. They close the browser, poof, it's gone. Okay, so they get past your gates. They get into your gated content. They get to your forms, whatever it might be. They're getting past that concept that you're requiring email. So if you're trying to be overly protective there, that's a good thing. I agree with you. But just make sure, just because they clicked your link, that also doesn't mean that they're necessarily a great email address. You want to be able to check that down the road as well and make sure you kind of go back through it. There's some other emails that are seen out there. There's a lot of people. Intelligence. Intelligence is something that to me is super important. If you're just on a form and all you're collecting is email, which by the way is not necessarily a bad concept, I do really agree with reducing friction on collecting data. So reducing that as much as possible. For example, do you need the first name and last name? Is it just so you can say, hey, Carlos? Then just collect the first name. I see a lot of people just give me all the data, give me all the data. We have conversion rate optimization people, all this type of stuff. And every single little thing you ask them for can bring down your ability to collect the amount of data that you're looking for. But there's threats that are coming through this, abuse emails. These are ones who are known to mark you as spam. So you need intelligence on your data before you send to it or as you're collecting it. People ask me, oh, I shouldn't use these abuse emails. I'm like, no, you should use them, but you shouldn't be cold emailing them. You shouldn't be sending emails to them where they didn't want your email. You shouldn't be constantly following up with them when they ignore you. There's intelligence that you can do and do segmentation off that. So pay attention to it. And the end result of all of this is your inbox placement. It's your deliverability. And so, like Carlos said, these ESPs, they're coming to us in panic as well and not get response, just for disclaimer methods here. But these ESPs are struggling, okay? And they are saying, what do? We need help. We need this data. We are the data cleaner uppers of the world. And if anybody's seen the trash coming through, it's us. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. There's a lot of just outdated data. So pay attention to it. It's going to affect your performance, and it's going to be the reason that you're in the inbox or the spam folder, or worst case scenario, that you even have an ESP for today, because they will start to kick you off. A lot of them are getting crushed with bad sending practices. So what do I do? What are autoresponders? These are the, by the way, just in case, because this is a term that can be used in so many different ways, autoresponders. These are your sequence emails. These are your stepped emails. So, day 1, we're going to do this. Day 7, we're going to do this. Day 12, whatever. So making sure that those are deliverable emails, think about the importance of that. and that they're engaging. That's another thing that's obviously going to be very important to your sender score and to everything deliverability related. But going back on the forms, catching the typos, incredibly important. We talked a lot about that already. I'm not going to go over it again. To buy the data or not, I saw like a message on LinkedIn today. It was like, it depends. It's not a good word to use. No, it does depend. Okay. And so it does depend. And I do like that answer because it depends on what you're buying. What are you buying? Are you buying lists from a guy that sent you an email from Hotmail that said, you know, hey, I have every mailing customer in the world. Carlos, do you want to buy this guy for like $12? Here you go. Let's sell it to you, right? No, you should never buy anything like that. I see lots of people that are in sales world. They're buying intent data. They're buying, that I would argue, warmer data. These people are showing interest in their vertical. These people are showing interest in their type of service. You know, if I'm looking at a sauna and now all these sauna companies start reaching out to me, is that a bad practice? I would argue no. I would argue that they're doing the right things. They're trying to catch buyers. That's what everything's about, is catching the buyer at the right time. So to buy data or not, be smart, being thoughtful. Do not look for quantity. That's the problem, I think, actually here with this concept, is people are looking for quantity. You should be looking for quality. You should be looking for intent, for focus, for intelligence towards what they're looking. Why would you buy it, right? You should be able to ask that question against the data set. Why would you possibly want to buy this? And it's because they were on your website last week. Okay, that's a good one. They're on your competitor's website last week. Maybe that's a good one. So, you know, be conscious of it. Be thoughtful. Don't just spray and pray with data. That's the worst approach. Be thoughtful. And then just be there with caution. Anybody here, if you're buying this data, quote unquote, Zoom info, another one, right? Is that bot data? I'd argue yes, by definition, certainly paying them. Is that bad data? I don't know. Why is half the world using them if that's the case? So, you know, play with caution. There is a lot of bad data in these data sets. And that's the part that is important to be paying attention to. So sure, maybe these people do have good intent, and maybe you verified that, you make sure it's good. But that doesn't mean that data today is up to date, still applicable, and completely deliverable. Check it. Their spam traps are also being planted into these things. And if you're not sure what a spam trap is, that's an email address that is designed to put you in the spam folder the second you send to it. Okay, it is exactly as it says, trap. That should not have been collected on a data form. That should not have been submitted to a newsletter sign up. That's something that's generally scraped off the internet or guessed as a result of trying to find people. And so that will be there. That will be on these type of lists, and you have to make sure you're not sending emails to them. And you shouldn't be using providers, by the way, if spam traps are on them. That would be a clear indicator to me. If you ran a list and you put it through zero bounds and there's spam traps all over it, I would stay very far away from any sort of provider that would tell you that that's good data. On the health, the maintenance, the hygiene, right? So back to the house cleaning. Do we clean our house once the day we bought it? Or do we clean our house weekly? Do we clean our house, you know, bi-weekly, whatever it might be, whatever your cadence is? Cleaning the data is imperative. That churn of 28% is not a joke. That's a lot. That is over 7%, right? Is churning quarterly, if you want to think of it that way. That bounce rate's not acceptable to ESPs. Okay, they're not going to be happy with you. Checking that data quarterly, if you're on B2B, I would say is the minimum. If you're on a B2C sort of environment where you send a lot of email to consumers, I'd say once every 6 months is the absolute minimum. I would argue more. But this data sets, they're churning. That's just what it's coming down to. Especially, yeah, you think Gmail accounts don't go away? They do. Yahoo accounts are disabled all the time. This is, they're trying to get these names back. If you notice, I'm seeing more and more on data sets, numbers being added to the email addresses because people want their name, but they can't get it. And so they're adding numbers and things like that. That's frustrating to users. So I'm going to go to a different provider instead. The mail providers such as Gmail, Yahoo, they're aware of this. They're trying to clean up those data points so that people can get the email addresses they're looking for. And again, if you're using it for anything on the CRM side, we integrate with most of them so that you can make sure that data it's kind of breathing with the CRM. So as you're adding new things, it's there, or as you are kind of ongoing maintenance, you can just do it and automate it through the CRM. That is an automation piece that is incredibly crucial. So the 2 points I've touched on so far, automate the collections process and clean that as it's coming. And then once it's in there, automate the cleaning process that's taking place while they're already living in your ecosystem. And again, any of that sales data, by the way, salespeople, sorry, and I manage salespeople, are the absolute worst offenders of getting your domain and getting your email sending into the biggest amount of trouble. Tell me I'm wrong. Anybody tell me I'm wrong. But we all know this in the business. Your salespeople are the ones that are going to give you the most amount of problems because they care about quantity. Shift their focus to quality. Another one, sending on cold domains. So for a lot of people might not be kind of thinking about this. This gets a little bit more technical, but I'm going to keep it practical. You cannot just start sending email or change your habits overnight. For example, if you've had a domain and you've never sent email on it, and you're like, well, I have a domain, let's go start sending on that. You can't just go throw 10,000 email sends on that domain the next day and expect everything to go well. It's going to go really bad. The ESPs, the ISPs, they want to see that you're ramping up your sending. You need to warm them up. Warming them up means you increase the sending patterns over a period of time and make sure that you are able to kind of build some reputation, build some understanding that this is real. This is not a spam attack. That happens a lot, by the way, is spammers or hackers kind of take over a domain and then try to send from it. And that's a reason that they will also block it when they see unknown activity that's taking place. And then another one, I see this a lot on the sales side. Sorry, guys, any on the sales side here, but buying a new domain today, setting it up and sending an email tomorrow. Blacklisted immediately, by the way. There are blacklists that it's public information, by the way, in case anyone's not aware, when a domain was purchased, on what day. Okay, so day, month, year, public information. Anyone can find it. This is readily accessible. One quick query, it's done. When they know that your sending domain is under 10 days old, I would argue, by the way, you shouldn't be sending on a domain that's under 6 months old. So if this, you need to be forward thinking, future-proof yourself, make sure your domain has age on it, make sure it has history, and build things up. Secondly, the autoresponders, when they're firing off, if you're doing them too quickly, a lot of people have no patience. And Carlos, I'd love to hear your thought on patience in both social and kind of email, because I see it, it's like, and I've had to do this with our sales reps. Day 1, send the email. Day 2, hey, you never responded. Day 3, where you at? Day 4, here's 4 phone calls. Wait a minute. Like this is a lot. And it happens really quick. Did I lose Carlos? What happened? Just as I was going to bring him in, I scared him off. But this is something that I'm definitely seeing. And, people should be aware of this. Slow down. Okay. Make sure the messaging is tailored. Make sure it's going to the right people. All right. I'm going to keep going, Carlos. We'll get you back. So warming up the email domains, very important. You can think of sending your domain as is a scored piece. Hey, there you are. Welcome back.
Sorry.
You can think of it as it's good. Tell me, like, let's take 2 minutes here. Discuss speed, Carlos. This has to be something you've thought much deeper about.
Here's the deal, right? Like business has always been predicated based on people do business with who they like, trust, and who they relate to. So like, it's funny because you're here talking about acquiring lists, buying leads, buying emails, and like, I'm cringing, right? Like I couldn't hold myself. I went here in the chat. I got impatient because I wanted to comment about it. I was guilty of doing this at one point in my career as a younger marketer, as a younger agency owner. In fact, like I want to say like I even used zero bounce. I might have gone like banned. I was just buying a ton of emails and running them through, and like I had a 0% conversion rate because at the end of the day, like who's going to do business with someone that randomly pops into their inbox? Like I'm curious to know just from the people here, if you get a random email or LinkedIn in mail for that fact of the matter, and someone's soliciting you with services, like, are you really going to stop what you're doing and pay attention to them? Or are you going to unsubscribe, unclick, unfollow, delete, right? So I don't believe in that method at all. I'm with you in terms of sales professionals, marketers, like they're very impatient because they want to see things happen right now. And again, like it just takes time. It takes time to build a business, grow a brand, nurture relationships. That's not something that you can scale. Like, yeah, you can use AI to move really fast, but AI is not going to help you nurture a relationship. And a lot of what we even talk about in email marketing tactics is nurturing your audience through segmentation. So that's even like going several steps further of paying attention over time, who's really, opening up your emails, clicking your emails, and it doesn't happen overnight. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I went a little rant there. I think in general, people are very impatient when it comes to business, and they lose sight of the fact that you have to build relationships, and that in itself takes time.
Yep. I think that's the nail on the head right there, is the relationship and the trust. People are asking too much without giving first. And I think that's, I don't know the good saying here, but it's like give, then ask, right? These type of things. And so I don't know what the ratio is, but it's certainly not give nothing and ask for a lot. That's definitely not the ratio. So I agree. And it's just very interesting kind of how it all works. I agree with you, by the way. I have never replied to one of these LinkedIn messages saying, thank God you messaged me. Like you nailed it. It's just never happened.
I always say to people, like, look, if you want to grow an email list, you have to do the work, right? And yes, like I'm going to share some keys here, in a minute on how you can use social to do that. But like the reality is that you go to events, you get business cards. ChatGPT makes it so easy nowadays to literally take a photo of a business card and drop business cards into ChatGPT and create an Excel spreadsheet that you can drop into Get Response, right? Or whatever ESP you use. Like I use this example all the time, right? If you go to an event, a conference, and you know how to work the room and you're having conversations, you're going to get business cards. At a very minimum, walk any expo hall at any event and you're going to get business cards, right? From vendors there. And then you can take photos, drop it into ChatGPT, have ChatGPT create an Excel spreadsheet. Boom. You have a small email list for that event right there. And if you do this enough times and you're working the room and you're going to conferences, over time, all those emails are going to compound. You're going to have a list. If you're using LinkedIn and you're connecting with people, well, LinkedIn actually has a backend feature which will allow you to export contact info, including email addresses of people that have opted in to share their email address with LinkedIn, right? So there's all these triggers and mechanisms that exist that feel a little bit more natural than just buying a list.
Yep, 100%. Totally agree. All right, so don't send from a cold domain. That's definitely not going to be a way to be effective. And then lastly, segmentation. I think this is a underrated concept that requires investment up front, but has great return on the back end. I still see very often talking to even large brands, they have one list, and one list gets the entire email. That's it. That's all they ever do. And they just keep sending it. Now, I'm not arguing if that's your newsletter and you're sending a newsletter out to everyone. That's fine. I'm talking about, are people thinking about journeys? Are they thinking about what is the path? Where is this person in the funnel? Or where is this person as a researcher, as a buyer, as an existing customer, as a potential customer, right on the edge? They keep coming back every day, but they haven't bought. That is a very different message than to somebody like Carlos, who understands zero bounce, for example, who understands the value, who's been using us for years. You can't send the same message to those people. It's all about timing. And segmentation is incredibly powerful. Again, underrated, a lot of work and effort up front, but it's long-term results that will get you kind of better ROI on everything. And that's the automation process. So, how do you understand where they came from? Well, do you guys track the pages that they're on your website? Are you seeing when the last time they opened that email was? Did they abandon a cart? Are you sending a personalized message on that product? And maybe they didn't buy that product, but maybe they're interested. They didn't know you had another one in that other color because you didn't set it up as a color preference. You set it up as its own product for whatever reason. There's just so many considerations that I personally can't tell you exactly what to do, but you have to think outside the box of your brand and go be a customer. That is something so underrated. Go be your own customer. Go understand the experience they're having. Understand if you would buy from them. Would you buy from yourself? Right. And I think that is so overlooked and something that can be really very powerful. Go buy from yourself. And would you have bought from yourself or would you have bought from a competitor? And run that exercise, especially if you're at the highest level. There's a ton of value there because that's just the truth. That's what people are going to look at you that way. So that's kind of another one. Use the segmentation and use it to your benefit. Carlos, walk us through the funnel.
For sure. So here's the funnel right here, right? Because I get asked this question all the time. All right, so I'm on social, I'm on LinkedIn. How do I now turn this into email addresses? And more importantly, how How do I turn this into income? So this is the breakdown right here. So your social media followers, we've already established that's borrowed attention. That's rented land, right? They're your follower today, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're paying attention. What your objective needs to be is to turn them into an email subscriber. And how you do that is methodical, right? Like I could go on my LinkedIn right now. I've got 38,000 plus followers. And by the way, if you're watching this right now, I just want to call it out. Go add me on LinkedIn. Let's connect. Let's stay in touch. Add my guy Brian here as well. Make sure you follow Zero Bounce and Get Response. So I just want to throw that out there. But if I go on my LinkedIn right now and I just say, hey, I have a newsletter, go sign up. That's not a compelling hook to get people to opt in, right? What I need to do is I need to consistently create content that provides some sort of value to my audience. So again, I am a marketer in the kind of B2B space, right? So as long as I'm creating content that's driving value of some sort, people are going to show up to the party. They're going to engage. It's those people that engaged on the back end. I'm inviting them to sign up for my newsletter. Hey, I appreciate you engaging. I appreciate you being connected to me. I'd love for you to sign up. I'll tell you something that's kind of cool right now, right? Because I look at everything as triggers, right? And even though we're talking about autoresponders that kind of does the work for you, like there's still a lot of manual work that you have to do on the back end. So I just hit 1 year with Get Response. So LinkedIn naturally is shooting out this like celebrate Carlos 1 year Get Response like message. So I'm getting all these inbound, which are probably automated to be honest with you, because it's like the same, hey, congrats on your 1 year message. What I'm doing is I'm copying and pasting and sending a message back saying, hey, I'd love for you to sign up for my Get Response newsletter. So that's how little by little I'm getting people to drip in. And I'm also having conversations asking, hey, I'm curious to know, what ESP do you use? Like, we're connected. You've been seeing me talk about this company for a year. Who do you use? Now that's creating two-way dialogue for me to engage with them and hopefully get them to sign up for at least a minimum a Get Response free trial. But again, like these are the levers that you need to push and pull in order to get people to engage and then ultimately drive them into that funnel. And once you have them in that funnel, that's when you can sell to them. But you have to be very selective with sales. And I said this in our chat here. People don't want to be sold to, they want to be engaged. There's this very fine line. Like I would love to sell everyone Get Response accounts, copies it into marketing, personal coaching, one-on-one mentorship. I would love to do all that. But it's a process here where I have to give you as much value as I possibly can and then segment to see who's truly paying attention. So even if I have, say, 30,000 people on my email list, but at the end of the day, out of that 30,000, there's a much smaller number that's really paying attention. And over a consistent period of time, I'm able to see how my last 5 campaigns, let's say it's 500 people have engaged, that have opened and shown interest, then it's that number that I'm selling to. It's not the broad number. And I'll give you an example. So I just said, in my own like non-Get Response, so Carlos Gill's email list, I have about 30,000 contacts in my Get Response account, right? I have now refined that 30,000 to about 7,000 people that consistently open up my emails. So if right now I was to sell anything, I'm not sending an email to 30,000 people because out of that 30,000, there's about 23,000 of them that I'm not keeping them warm, right? They're just haven't shown consistent interest. So within even that 7,000, I need to go much deeper and see, okay, who's actually clicking? What are they clicking to? Because in my emails, yes, I'm promoting blog posts, which is more informational content. I'm promoting courses that create different products. So you have to really look at the data and allow the data to guide your decisions. Before I go on to the next slide, do you have any thoughts, Brian, since you are the more of the email guru here?
I totally agree. I mean, I see far too often that people are just trying to mail the whole list and just assuming all are equal. It's not the case. You have to be able to, and there's a really good question on the segmentation, which,
I see it.
You should get to, but there's so many segments. That to me, they're infinite. It's almost infinite. You have to just be creative, and you have to understand your own buyer's journey and your own kind of journey of the whole. To me, I've always seen it as there's 2 funnels. There's a marketing funnel and a sales funnel. And to me, they're very often commingled and overlap. I understood that they overlap, but they're treated the same. And to me, they're very different. And so I think kind of what you highlighted, Carlos, which was you have 23,000, I think that was your math, 23,000 on, to me, the marketing funnel. They should be just on marketing. It's purely trying to warm them up. You're trying to get them going, but you got 7,000 on the sales funnel. And so it's not 30,000 on the sales funnel, to your point. And I'm sure the effectiveness of that is very different.
Yeah, and I use this analogy a lot whenever I'm doing talks, right, at conferences, more so specifically on the social media side, because as marketers, right, when you think of this funnel that you see even here on the screen, right, everyone always wants the big numbers. They always want to focus on like, oh, I have all this reach, I have all these people. Well, no, you really don't. The people that are closely paying attention are the ones that you really have their interest and access to. So, for example, like I'm seeing here this question, when you talk about segmentation, does it matter how to segment? Does it matter where I use custom tags, fields, separate lists? I focus on activity specifically. That's how I segment my list. It's not so much on tags. I have different contact lists set up. So, for example, I have a list of just media, bloggers. I have a list of people that have attended events, right? And I'll just be very transparent, right? How I've collected my data over the years. I've spent now a good decade of my career as a public speaker and marketing thought leader. So it's been a combination of every conference that I speak at, I have an opening slide that has a way for you to opt into my email list. There's a way for you to opt into my SMS list as well, right? Through another tool that I use. So after years of you speak to thousands of people, you're going to grow that list, but there's always like a hook, right? Hey, I've got this free ebook, there's free guide, and that's how I get people to opt in. If we go to the next slide, I might have it on the next one or two slides because I think that's a good way. Here we go. So the way that I'm able to get people into that funnel is because there is a tangible item, there is a hook that they're going to get. But even within those lists that I've created, I've had to segment down over the years for no other reason than, like Brian said, not everyone's a buyer, right? And I don't want to get people to opt out if they're not truly interested in the content that I'm sharing. So this right here is more so like the sales funnel itself. So let's just pretend at this point that you already have your list that exists, right? However many people are on it, right? In order to keep growing and building that list, you need to find ways to keep people's attention engaged. So I'm a big proponent of lead magnets, right? Lead magnets in another world, right? Another brand, you would know them as click funnels, right? But they're lead magnets, right? You're giving someone of value, they're opting in, they're giving you their email address, and then you're kind of bringing them through this buyer's journey using email to keep them engaged. It could be a welcome, nurture series. It could be a follow-up series. I'm with Brian that you want to be very cautious with inundating your audience with too much content up front. That's an easy way to get people to opt out. But lead magnets, you can actually build within Get Response. And the cool thing is that we have an AI, built-in AI tools that you can build landing pages and lead magnets really within seconds using AI. And then giving incentives to grow subscribers. Like, I'm a big fan of this. If you have an e-commerce business, like I said before, years ago, I had a sneaker resale business. Before that, I actually had an e-commerce business. And anytime that we would give a promo code or run a flash sale and send that email out to our email list, it was just like instant cash coming in, right? Like, that's the quickest way to drive sales, but it's also the quickest way to grow subscribers, right? So I'm going to give my social media followers this exclusive offer, but they have to opt into the email list in order to do that. So once you get people into your list and they're on board, now this is really where the work happens, right? And that is right there in the middle, right? It's nurturing and engaging that audience. And you do that in a variety of ways, right? You send valuable content. I'm a big fan of educational content. You automate follow-ups, and you kind of create this sense of community that lives within email and social. And like, one of my recommendations from where I see a lot of brands messing up is when you send out an email and that email is coming from a no reply at domain for the brand, that now instantly tells me that that's a one-way communication. It's a one-way dialogue. And again, I come from the world of social media where social is all intended to be two-way dialogue between brand and consumer. And I believe email should be set up the same exact way, right? So if you really want to create community, you can't send emails from just a brand account. It needs to be actually from a human being that I know if I hit reply on this and it comes from zero bounce, I can, engage with Brian or Ann or whoever else within the organization. And then there's monetization, right? And like, this is like what I call the mud, right? So you got to get it in the mud. You got to walk people through this journey where you have this strategy in place and this workflow in place. So then as you're weeding people out through the process, you're able to sell them your products, whether it's a digital product, whether it's a course, whether it's coaching, memberships, e-commerce, right? It doesn't matter what you sell. The journey itself is the same. It's not hitting people over the head and right hooking them off rip on the first email. It's actually walking them through this journey. Before we go to the next slide, I'll stop right there, Brian, and see if you have any thoughts that you wanted to add.
I think you nailed it. I mean, it's a good visual behind it to kind of see how it all should flow. It's great.
Cool. Let's go to the next then. So this right here is the workflow of how email automation turns your list into income. So I kind of just touched on at the very top, lead magnet, right? So you need to have lead magnets set up. So whenever someone does opt in, you're giving them something of value. I'll give you an example of a lead magnet that I have. And if it's cool, I'll drop it here in the chat. I've got a course I created for free that lives within GetResponse. So I can say to anyone, like, look, you should, if you're a creator, you should join GetResponse because you can send emails, right? But that's not, in my opinion, as enticing of a hook as saying you can create a course within GetResponse, and better yet, here's my free course. You can sign up. There's 2 hours worth of free content that's made in a studio, and it's a really professional LinkedIn learning style course or masterclass course. Boom. Well, that's a lead magnet because you're going to sign up for the course for free. Now I'm going to get your email address, and now because I have your email, I can remarket to you. And that's where then you have to set up a personalized sequence or a welcome sequence, right? This sets the tone for what people can expect from you, right? And this is all through automation workflows that you set up on the back end through GetResponse, right? This isn't you like having to manually do this every single time someone opts in. But then the nurturing is where you set up these, smart triggers to where it's all based on behaviors. So if someone, for example, doesn't open up your welcome series within 24 hours, they get an automatic email from you, or within a day, a couple days, however long you decide to set. Before I go on to the next, right, the audience that you really should be paying attention to. I'm going to assume that everyone watching this right now, you have some sort of email list set up with whatever ESP you use. The audience that often gets overlooked the most is your non-engaged, inactive audience, right? That's where the money is really hiding within your ecosystem. If you can find a way to crack that nut and get in front of your audience, right? And you need to do this by segmenting them out. So actually creating a segmented list of who hasn't opened up an email from you, and let's just say your last 5 campaigns, right? Now you can send an email to them with an offer. Now you can create an exclusive nurture series for them to get them back on board. And this is where the offer comes in, right? So I say here, no more hustling for every sale. Every subscriber becomes a sales opportunity, because you need to think of, if you are nurturing your audience and you're setting up your workflows in a way where you're giving value, staying on their radar, then they will convert into a sale. But you need to be strategic with how you do this. Before we go to the next slide, do you have anything that you want to add to that, Brian?
I'm learning. I'm taking it in. I mean, I think you're an expert at this. I really do. And I've always watched your content. I always learned from you. I said, no, I'm an audience member right now with you.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Well, if anyone has any questions, make sure you get those in the chat, because I see we're coming up on time soon. So let's just kind of wrap this up here quickly over the next couple of slides, and then we'll open it up to questions. So look, I believe in having SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. This is my playbook, right? And I want you to screenshot this, copy this. What I really want you to do when you get off this webinar is, obviously, I want you to go sign up for GetResponse, sign up for a free trial. If you're not using us already, you can send unlimited emails to up to 500 contacts for 30 days. So take advantage of that. What I want you to do is, when you sign up for GetResponse, actually create a lead magnet of some sort, right? And you can do this actually within GetResponse. You can use ChatGPT to create, even if it's like a 10-step guide, right? But create some sort of a lead magnet. So once you start going on social and you're activating that social following, you actually have a hook to reel them in. Then what I want you to start doing is start tracking conversions from every social media channel. So for example, create a UTM tracking link for X or for Instagram or for LinkedIn from that hook or that magnet. Then what you start doing is start sending 1 to 2 emails per week to your existing list and your new subscribers to deliver a high amount of value. So again, I'm a big fan of education. If you are a brand like GetResponse or Zero Bounce that has a blog, start repurposing your blog content as email content. And the easiest way to do that is run those blogs through ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT to give you like a Reader's Digest preview version for email newsletter within a link that goes in the email back over to your website. And then what you do is create relevancy, right? So it's align your email content with what your followers are seeing on social. So social and email speak to each other. Upbeat voice, upbeat tone, which is normally what you see on social, align that with email. And then set a very realistic goal for the next 30 days that you're going to grow your email subscribers by at least 10% using social media. Next slide. This is what you need to start doing today. I'll go through this here very quickly. First of all, stop depending on social media to drive results for your business. Start relying more on email. Start using more of social as a feeder source or a funnel for email. Start building your email list. Keep nurturing it. Keep growing it. Use email and digital products for sustainable growth. And then own your audience and own your future. Next slide.
Killed it.
All right, Brian, back over to you, sir.
You killed it, man. Even the comments. I want to watch it again. Yeah. So rate my lead magnet here, Carlos. We're kind of offering, we do the same things where people can try everything out. We do inbox testing, we do server testing, blacklist monitoring, validation. Everything is available to you for free at a full version of that, by the way, as well as the integrations. I constantly am seeing a lot of different things there. So feel free to sign up for a Zero Bounds account. We do everything in a similar fashion. We want you to actually see what you can do within the platform. So please give it a shot. Also, just for anyone who maybe is either a Get Response user or a Zero Bounds user or both, we can also kind of automate that data and the cleaning of that through Zapier. So if any of you are familiar with that, you can visit that link right there as well. And if you haven't had that set up already, you can. So make sure that the data stays clean within your platform. And then lastly, I believe, yeah, we're really coming up here on time. I want to respect everyone's time here, but offers from kind of both sides, exclusive to this webinar specifically on the Zero Bounds side. This is for existing Zero Bounds customers, by the way. If you've heard enough of my speeches, you know I will never show you an offer that you cannot use, even if you're an existing customer. It drives me absolutely insane to limit that type of stuff. And so that's here on the Zero Bounds side. You can always reach out to our support team as well. And I'll let Carlos do the Get Response one.
Yeah, no, for sure. So first of all, I want to say thank you once again to Zero Bounds for being a really good partner. If you have a chance to connect with Brian or Ann or any of the team at Zero Bounds at any industry events, please do. They are amazing people and great partners. So thank you once again for this opportunity. And yeah, you see, here on the screen, the QR code. Give us a shot. Pull out your phone, scan that QR code. You can sign up for a 30-day free trial of Get Response. You can upload up to 500 contacts and receive unlimited email sends. And at very minimum, sign up and look at all the tools that we have to offer. What I can tell you as someone that has used just about every competitor in the industry is that not only are we affordable, but we are perhaps the easiest email service provider to use in the game. So I don't know if we have time for questions. I'm game to stick around, but I definitely want to say, let's connect. Let's stay in touch. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram at CarlosGill83. And any questions I can answer for you, don't hesitate to reach out.
Same. Any good questions?
Okay. So we'll try to move quickly here. One question I saw was, how many emails is too many at once for a new domain?
Definition of new domain to me is I just bought it in the last week, couple of days, month. Anything more than you're sending a few hundred at a time is too much. You need to be kind of ramping that up. And we have an amazing, I hope one of our team members here can post it. We have an amazing deliverability guide that will guide you through exactly how many emails you should send at what day and ramp that up. So you do need to kind of build momentum, and you do need to, I believe it's an exponential kind of curve that we guide you on. And we have a whole resource on it. This comes up a lot. Perfect. Thank you, Zach. That guide right there will walk you through it.
Well, I saw so many people asking if there's going to be a recording, and yes, you are going to get a copy of the recording, and you're also going to be able to find it on YouTube. But if a question occurs to you, as you heard from Brian and Carlos, these guys are easy to reach. Don't hesitate. Reach out. Okay, so I see Jeff Bellinger. He asked, domain protection with old existing primary domain. Mailing to existing customers is $1,800 a risk.
Carlos, I don't know if you have thoughts on this stuff, but from the deliverability point of view, old domains, great. Domain protection depends. So I believe you are not allowed to, and disclaimers. I hate this stuff. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not in GDPR, and I don't own the laws and jurisdictions of all of this stuff. I believe you cannot send any sort of cold emailing to anything with domain protection with primary domain existing customers, 1800. No, I don't think that's really a risk. But I would also go back, just step back one more step to what we were talking about earlier. Why does 1800 have to get it on day one if you've never emailed? Walk into it, send 100. What happened? Was it good? If it was bad, change something. Send 200. Was it good? Was it bad? It was great. Perfect. Send 400. Walk through it. If 1800 is the number that you have, that means you have, and to be fair, this is not a shot. A lot of businesses only have small amount of potential customers. Don't just throw them all at the fence at once. I would really slow down. You're a perfect example of someone who should slow down. Sorry, and I hope this is not offensive, but slow down and work through that in a really good way. Because rushing just to get it in their inbox, first off, you might get the opposite effect of trying to do that too fast. But secondly, did you connect with them in the right way? Like, did you optimize that 1800? That's what I would argue. And to me, sending it in one shot, the answer is probably no.
All right. Any more questions? We'll wait just a moment.
What do you guys think of the webinar? Y'all like it? Those that stuck around? I saw some positive comments.
Lots of good comments. Thank you so much. Thank you, folks, for taking time out of your day and coming and checking it out.
Definitely.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Carlos, always great to see you again. I look forward to a alligator tail dinner, courtesy of Carlos and Luigi. Sorry, little inside jokes here. So Carlos and I actually do know each other.
We do.
And we do things here. And so I just appreciate it. And he's another Florida guy. So I got to keep those guys close.
If you couldn't tell by my background here.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Great pleasure to have you. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful day.
See you guys.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.